greetings, dear friends. Welcome to the program Mother of God. Today we are going to look at something very important, the prophecy and the virgin birth. What is it that relates to what God had said through his prophet? And what is the actual derivation from there? What happened to people's beliefs from it? How did it transform through the ages? How did it become different? And what is it that we do today? Well, we're going to have Father Michael Karimatam with us again today, and our Bible scholar is going to explain for us some very important questions. Welcome to the program, Father.
Thank you.
So we are having the virgin birth examination today. We are going to look at what it is that we hear in the beginning and what it is that we have now. What do you want to say, Father?
Yeah, look, this is a prophecy, maybe the prophecy that is related to Mary.
Yeah.
And there are two passages. One is in Matthew. It's presented as an explanation given by an angel to Joseph. And the angel is referring back to a prophecy, Isaiah 7:14.
Yeah.
But I think he would start reading.
Yeah, sure, Father. I think we
If
must.
you can read Gospel of Matthew,
Yep.
chapter 1, 22-23.
Okay. Matthew chapter 1, verses 22-23. Okay. All this took place to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet. Look, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel.
So that is very clear.
Yeah.
A virgin shall
Virgin,
conceive,
yeah.
and that's a virgin birth. But now it is also clear that Matthew is pointing to the prophecy of Isaiah.
Okay.
So now you go to the original prophecy in Isaiah 7:14 and see what is written there.
Okay. Isaiah 7, verse 14.
14.
Yeah. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel.
Okay. Do you find any
Emmanuel is
difference?
the one which is happening in both places, but the young woman here and the virgin there. Right.
So that is a problem. That is a
Yes.
problem that has to be explained.
Yes, Father.
Now, what is the sign? And why is it given as a sign? Who is asking for a sign? So, in order to understand the prophecy, you have to see the context in
Yes.
which it is written. So, the context is a very dangerous situation faced by the kingdom of Judah. You know, the empire Assyria was on the ascent in the second half of 8th century BC. Assyria was conquering neighboring countries, and all the countries east of Assyria felt threatened. And they thought they also will be conquered, so they want to come together. It is something like a huge empire like China invading the neighboring countries.
Yeah.
And this Assyria is so powerful that Syria, Israel, and many foreign countries, they thought if we stand alone, we'll be eaten up.
Yes.
So come together. They want to make a treaty, a coalition against this great Assyria. So Syria and Israel, neighboring countries, Israel is the northern kingdom and south is Judah.
Yes.
So Israel and Syria made an alliance against the Assyrian Empire, a coalition. And they invited King Ahaz of Judah to join the coalition. Ahaz was more skeptical. And so was Judah. When Judah, the kingdom of Judah saw this great empire, Assyria, and the small kingdoms like Syria and Israel and Judah, if we go together, we'll be all beaten up. He said, no, I don't want to join the coalition. So this is the situation. It's in 736 BC. And then the kingdom, the Syrians and the Israelis thought, if this man behind us doesn't join, and if he joins Assyria, it will be much more a threat
Difficult
for
for
us.
them, yes.
So we want to handle him. So they wanted to invade Judah. They want to invade Judah, depose Ahaz, and put somebody else on
Who
the
will be
throne
part of their
who
coalition.
will participate in the coalition. So this is the context. So Syria and Judah, the armed forces of these two nations are marching against Judah. Judah is in a very, very precarious situation. What can we do now? Ahaz thought it is a time now to turn to Assyria, Empire Assyria. Ask Assyria to help. So if Assyria helps, it will be okay. This is the time Isaiah comes, sent by God. And if you can read, say this is the situation. Assyria, Ahaz wants to get help from Assyria, and God is asking Ahaz, don't go for any political affiliation, any coalition, nothing at all. Trust in God.
Yes.
And if you want to ask for a sign, and now please read 7, 10 and following.
Again the Lord spoke to Ahaz, saying, Ask a sign of the Lord your God. Let it be deep as Sheol or high as heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, and I will not put the Lord to the test. Then Isaiah said, Hear then, O house of David, is it too little for you to weary mortals, that you weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child, and shall bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel.
Continue.
He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before whose 2 kings you are in dread will be deserted.
Continue.
The Lord will bring on you and on your people and on your ancestral house such days as have not come since the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria.
Okay, this is a prophecy, it's a long prophecy. We have taken only one verse
part,
usually.
yes.
Usually take only this one verse 14 and saying young woman. So here is a young woman, there's the other virgin. So first of all, deal with the word. Is it a young woman or is it a virgin? Usually a virgin can be an old woman, but normally only a young woman bears a child. So what is the sign actually God is giving? First thing, Isaiah is asking in God's name, you ask for a sign, whatever you want. High as heaven or low as Sheol, whatever, whatever possible. Then the thinking of Ahaz is this. If I ask for a sign and if I get a sign, then I cannot go for a treat.
Yes.
But in case God doesn't keep that word, I'll be lost. So he doesn't believe in God. He does trust in the word. So he said, I will not ask. So that was, he was
and
somehow...
God was so sharp to pick that up, right?
Yeah, he was so
able to
somehow hiding his lack of trust and faith. And then it is said, is it not enough that you, both the people that you even disturb my God, is it a test? Here then, O house of, is it too little for you to weary men that you weary my God also? That why do you trust? Then he goes on to say, look, a young woman with a child. The sign actually is not that a young woman is with a child. That comes later. So that is a later interpretation. So the sign actually is not that a virgin conceives. The young woman shall conceive with a son, child, and he shall eat curds and honey when he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. And then before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before those 2 kings you are in dread will be deserted. That is a sign.
Yes.
So a woman is with a child, and child will be born soon. And before the child knows how to choose good and refuse evil, it's about the age 2 or 3. So within 2 or 3
time.
Yeah, in a very short time, these kingdoms will disappear. Don't be afraid. Wait, hold on. That's what he's telling. So in fact, it's not exactly the virgin birth that is sign, but Ahaz is asked to wait for 2 years, at the most. Trust in God, he will give you. But Ahaz cannot wait. And what happened? here is only a normal thing. So it could be the wife of Ahaz, it could be the wife of Isaiah, or any woman, any young woman who is pregnant now. So when she gives birth to a child and the child grows in 2.5 years, so within 2 or 3 years, this will come to an end. Ahaz did not believe. Ahaz did not. So what he did, he went and made a treaty with Assyria in 736. Assyria responded immediately. Assyria invaded Syria, and they had to lift siege and go back. So that siege is over, but they did not stop there. So in 734 BC, Assyria invaded Damascus, it was destroyed, and Israel was defeated, and after 10 years it is totally destroyed, 720. So the prophecy is fulfilled. That means in a very short time, in 2 years, these two countries came to an end. But then this continued. In 701, Assyria invaded Israel and Judah, and they laid siege to Judah. We don't have to go into the details of that. But in 701, Jerusalem itself was laid siege to, and then it's only through a miracle that was saved. So here, coming back to 714, in the time of prophecy, this was something that just happened immediately. Now we have to see how to understand a prophecy. A prophecy has usually two levels of meaning. The first immediate level is the one to whom it is addressed. Here, Ahaz, the situation of invasion from Israel and Syria, and Ahaz going to ask for a treaty or a help with Assyria. It's a historical context. In this historical context, the prophecy of Isaiah should have a meaning. And the meaning is within short time this will be over. Then it is not the question of us, the virgin birth, it is a question of the siege being lifted and the country will be saved. But then, the prophecy has a deeper meaning. Sensus plenior, they call it, a deeper meaning. A deeper meaning that somehow transcends the immediate context. Is valid everywhere, in many prophecies. So the time went, this was already over, but then there came a time when there was no more king in Israel. After 587, that was the last king, Zedekiah. In 87, Jerusalem was destroyed, the city was burnt, and people were deported to Babylon, and the monarchy came to an end in Israel. After that, they did not have a Davidic king. For a short period, we had a Maccabean king in the 2nd century BC, but that is not considered as an Israelite king. So after the first half of 6th century BC, there is no more king in Israel. Now there is a hope. The exile was over, and then after the exile they still hope for a king. So when there is no more a king, they look back to the prophecies. The prophecies, for example, Deuteronomy is 18:15. So that's Deuteronomy 18:15 is the prophet like Moses, or many other prophecies. As we are focusing on 7:14, this prophecy is also taken up that has something of a deeper meaning. So the prophecy of Isaiah was not completely fulfilled with this event of the Ahaz being rescued. Then the emphasis shifts from the short period in which the enemies will be destroyed to the very fact of the son born of a woman. And this woman is not to be an ordinary woman, this is a young woman. In Hebrew, the word is Alma. You know, the Alma Mater. Alma, I-A-L-M-A. Alma is a young woman. Can be virgin, but need not be virgin. It's a young woman. But when this was taken, this Alma has the implication, it can also mean virgin. So in the 3rd century BC, 250 around, when they translated the Hebrew Bible into Greek, they used the word parthenos, meaning virgin. It's very clear, specifying not just a young woman, not like any young woman, a virgin. So from the 3rd century onwards, this prophecy has been taken as a child being born of a virgin. It has background, other mythical background, etc., but I don't want to go it. Here, from the Septuagint onwards, this has become very clear. This is a prophecy that's not fulfilled. So to go back, A prophecy has two levels of meaning: a meaning that is relevant to the person to whom it is said, and then a meaning that transcends that time. So Ahaz's time is past, and we don't know when it is going to happen. So we are waiting. So prophecies, one after the other, had been collected, and especially Prophet Isaiah is the one who has given so many prophecies. We'll see chapter 9, chapter 11, and then continues with. So of these great prophecies, this is one of the important prophecies. A prophecy that speaks about the coming of a Messiah, a son of David, a king who will be born of a virgin. And when you come to the New Testament authors, Jesus was speaking Aramaic. And in Palestine, they were speaking Aramaic and Greek, something like in Kerala, we speak English, something. Aramaic was a common language. But when the apostles went out preaching gospel, the lingua franca was Greek. Not the classical Greek, but the koine, the common Greek language. So they were using not the Aramaic or Hebrew Bible, but the Greek Bible called the Septuagint. So when Paul is speaking Greek, and he is using also the Septuagint. So the Christian use of the Old Testament, the Jewish Bible, was taken from the translation. That's how when Matthew is quoting from Isaiah Alma, that is translated into Parthenos, Matthew is quoting from the Septuagint. And in Septuagint, it is not just a young woman, not like any maid, but this is a woman, is a virgin who did not have a relation with a man. The birth will be a totally divine intervention. So what has been said to Ahaz has been reinterpreted, and coming to the reading of the New Testament, the young woman turns out to be virgin.
But there isn't anyone who just gives birth to a person who is an Emmanuel. I mean, that is the important part in this, isn't it, Father? The whole thing about whether it is a young woman or a virgin, the idea that somebody is going to give birth to an Emmanuel.
See, Emmanuel is a name. Emmanuel is the name.
God with us.
God with us. Jesus. God's Savior. So these were common names at that time. So this important issue, of course, that he'll be called Emmanuel because it is God. So what is important, what we are focusing is on the virgin birth, not on the Son. The Son is important, of course, but as far as Mariology is concerned, it's not so much the Emmanuel, but the Virgin that is conceived. So what is Emmanuel? Jesus gave two promises out of many. In Matthew 18, we have a promise, where 2 or 3 of you are gathered in my name, I will be in your midst. When 2 or 3 gather in my name, I will be in your midst, present.
Yes.
And the last word, according to Matthew, what Jesus said was, I am with you to the end of ages. I am with you. Who is I? Emmanuel. So you don't call him Emmanuel, but he is Emmanuel. So that is what this message says. This took place so that the prophecy may be fulfilled, that the virgin shall conceive and give birth to a son, and he shall be called Emmanuel. So here, who is this virgin?
Yeah.
So our point is not Emmanuel, our point is Mary.
Virgin. Yeah.
So the Mary is presented as a virgin, as the virgin birth, that is a fulfillment of a prophecy. And this prophecy is understood only after the event. You see, very often the prophecies are understood to have been a prophecy only when it is fulfilled. So unless and until it is fulfilled, we don't know what it is. And it was difficult for the people to understand. See, the whole problem with Mary, I will come to it when we come to the New Testament. A young woman who was betrothed to a young carpenter. And people do not want to accept that fact, so they make all sorts of stories. That Joachim and they were too old, and they had made a promise and all this, and she was dedicated, and she grew up in the temple, and the virginity was consecrated, and they looked for somebody who would keep her as a virgin, and finally they saw this old carpenter, etc. This is all nonsense. It's a
lot of stories.
It's what you call the interpretation. Why should Joseph be an old man? Is impossible. How old should be a person not to have any relation with us? It has nothing to do with the physical sexuality. So what the Bible is telling, Joseph was a young man, a carpenter. Mary was a young woman. They had decided to marry.
Mary, yes.
And before they came together, that's common. We'll come to it when we study the New Testament passage. So this is a fact that she was a virgin. She did not have a relation with a man.
Yeah.
They did not come together. And the people know that.
Yeah.
And it would have been a problem. See, when you study the Gospel of Mark, they ask, is it not Mary's son? Usually, it's not the way saying. If you tell a person is by mother's name, that means his father is not very secure. You don't know whose son it is. So there had been a kind of understanding among the people there's something wrong with this woman.
Yeah.
So she, after this betrothal, she went for a journey for about 130 kilometers away. After 3 months, she comes back pregnant. What should people think? And Joseph himself is in trouble. He doesn't know what to do. And finally, he decides to marry her. But somehow this remains there. And this could be also a sword that pierced her heart. Yeah. A woman who becomes pregnant without the knowledge of her husband. As a woman, you can imagine what it would be. And the people know that.
Yeah.
And she has no way of explaining. And I don't know if you have seen the film of Severely, Jesus of Nazareth. Make it a point to see that beautiful film. I have seen so many films on Jesus, but the best I have ever seen is this. Jesus of Nazareth. It is a 6.5 hours film. In the 80s, I used to show this film because we didn't have the computer or this thing. So I used to take the 16mm projector and go from parish to parish. At least 100 times I have shown this film, giving comments. And there is one thing Joseph is telling Mary. So Mary came and tells, yeah, tell me what happened. Whatever is, who violated you? Mary has nothing to say. And Joseph doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And only later on comes to this realization, this is a prophecy. So, I mean, the prophecy is understood in the light of what is happened, fulfillment. Otherwise, they were not thinking about the virgin birth. So this is how the fact remains that Jesus was born of a virgin, and the very virgin birth had cost her a lot, Mary. So we easily take it as a gift. In German, the word gift means poison. Giftig. So it's a given, but this is a gift, but it's a poisonous gift. How much she had to suffer. And even Jesus being born out of wedlock, so to say. No? So all this, if you see the normal, natural understanding of the people, it's not easy to understand. And it should have been a real pain for her. On the one hand, she is chosen by God and become the instrument of the Holy Spirit. On the other hand, how to explain to the people the shame that she has to go through, much more than today. She would have been stoned to death. That will come to later.
Yeah.
So this is how Mary is presented. That is the Isaiah 7:40.
Yeah.
So this is a prophecy concerning the birth of the Messiah, and the Messiah is born of a virgin, so has no father, and is called Immanuel, God with us. So Mary becomes the mother of the God who is born of a woman.
Praise the Lord. Thank you, Father. This is actually, it takes so much of the essence of humanity, so much of the relationship equations that's so important, that is so prevalent even today. The situation of being found with child, where we have single mothers, where we have single parents. And this whole situation that was there before Mother Mary, the Mother of God, with the Son, who's the Son of God, and for her to accept a prophecy that was not even so directly relating to her, but for her to really accept all of that, I mean, she was pondering over it all along, all the time thinking about all of these things. It would have taken so much faith, isn't it, for her? It would have taken so much faith to accept that beautiful prophecy that was given to her, that, I mean, a prophecy fulfillment that was given to her when the angel came in and said things, and for her to really take it forward every day.
Yeah, that's what Elizabeth, the blessed is the one who believed.
Believes, yes. And she is so strong in that sense. She's such
We'll
a
come to it
strong mother,
more in more
surely.
detail.
And we thank you again, Father. One more episode,
Thank you.
one more clarification, and you really set us free in many ways. As you can see, dear people, today we had another very interesting discussion on the virgin birth of Mother Mary. It is not easy, it is never easy to accept a prophecy if we do not know the totalness about it. But yet, prophecies are never complete. They are not so easily visible and so easily readable as well. We saw that just now in Isaiah. And Father so beautifully explained it to us. What is it that makes Mother Mary so unique, so accepting, so understanding, and so believing of what God had for her? So there will be more questions that we will look at. We will see you again in our next episodes. Thank you, and God bless you.